things about trauma, we don't even think that it's trauma. We overlook it.
Mm.
Like for me, I overlooked the fact that I was molested at the age of 10. And it went on for a year. And I was like, okay, it's okay because my mom made me think it was okay.
Mm.
And so for me to share this, it's
Yeah.
important because I know there's so many of you out there that have dealt with the same thing.
Mm.
And that's why I do the work that I do, because I want to help people
Yeah.
recognize that yes, trauma builds up. And where does it build up and how does it impact your life? And for me, it was coming out through my skin. It was coming out through my digestive system. It was in my kidneys. I mean, I had compartmentalized it everywhere, and
Mm.
you may be too. But the brain has a lot to do with it because where is the trauma rooted in? See, we're trying to find the root, right?
Yes.
Where did it hide? Where did I hide it? Yeah, sure, it sprinkled into every part of my body, but where did it start? It started in the brain. It started with a thought that said it's okay, that's there, that happened to you. But I knew inside of me that it's not okay. So something inside me triggered later on in life in my 30s going, it's not okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have memories come back, but it's okay that if you don't even have recollection of trauma but you know that it happened,
Right.
but that's why we're here to dive deeper and heal the brain and really dig deep into
Yes.
where are you holding on to any kind of energy. It doesn't even have to
Mm.
be trauma. It could be anything. It could be surgery. It could be an accident. It could be a verbal abuse or anything that you have
Mm.
been to where your body kind of goes in shock. Your nervous system says, oh,
Mm.
that doesn't feel right. And now you're in fight, flight, freeze mode.
Yes. And it sounds like, and I thank you for sharing that story, because I know a lot of people are already writing in with some understanding and also some connection to this. So thank you very much. And everyone, if we could just send Deepal some gratitude for being so open, because she is just a huge beacon of light. And it's going to create a space for a lot of people that need to also let things like this go.
Yes.
Um, I want to hear from folks because they're writing in with a lot of absolute stories that they are sharing that this makes sense. This is actually what they feel could be happening. Um, and it's interesting that these signals of trauma, they just kind of keep sort of sending out that pulse throughout your life. Maybe it was 10 years old and now you're 30, 40, 50, but those signals eventually add up and then they start to create the breakdown. But what I love about you is you're able to see into kind of the energies of folks as a medical intuitive. So, how do you see the energy? How do you see something that might be a breakdown type signal that's playing out, that's sort of like putting vibration out into somebody's body or into their life?
Yeah, definitely. So, you mentioned earlier, well, somebody had not wrote in, but
Mhm.
they had a testimonial that said I was like an MRI
Yeah,
machine.
right, right.
Like the human MRI machine. Well, here's the thing, right? Your brain governs everything: your thoughts, your memories, your emotions, touch, motor functions, vision, breathing, your temperature, your hunger, your digestion, like every process that keeps you alive, right? Your brain is now connected to the spine. So, what's happening is like your brain starts to send information immediately through the spine, and the spine has all these nerves. It's got 72,000 nerves. Okay. And
Mm.
these 72,000 nerves are now sending stuff into your body, into your organs and tissues. And I can see all of that happening. Now, did I always have that gift? No, I didn't. I actually discovered my gifts, my intuitive gifts, about 2015. And so it's very recent, but I have used my gifts in everything I do all day long. And so, with as many clients that I've worked on, it has really just built up and given me that ability to see, feel, touch, smell. I mean, I've got 8 intuitive clairs opened up. you know.
8. Okay.
So
Explain
we
those to
get
me.
those six.
What are some of those clairs? Because I don't know all of them, but I'm sure a lot of people are probably interested in what some of these clairs are. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience.
Right.
I'm
So we've
stuck
got
at number
eight.
3.
So we got clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience. We've got clairsentience,
Wow.
clairalience, clairgustance, clairempathy. I
Oh,
mean, the
okay.
list goes on and on. Clairtangency.
Oh, have y'all ever heard it? I'd never heard of these before. This is amazing.
Well, that's what I
Clairtin.
help my people develop, and tune
Wow.
into their own body. So I love doing this. But for
Wow.
me, it's so important because the more I develop this, the more I could see within your body and your brain, your mind. And really, that's how I get to those levels that I can get to. As soon as I go into the brain, it starts to speak to me, right? I work with a team of guides. And
Okay.
so we connect with your body, making sure that you are completely safe, because
Mm,
we want to feel safe, right? I don't want anyone to feel like it's an intrusion, right?
right.
Because
Right.
you can easily feel that, but being safe, because I've had people that come on a call with me and they'll be like, Deeple, I'm so anxious,
Yeah.
and they don't know why, and I understand that. And so, if you've never worked with me, of course, I'm here to set up that safe space for you. And then we go in and we see what are the disruptions in your brain? Where are they coming from? What are you plugged into? And is it
Yeah.
hidden imbalances? Is it brain injury? Is it chronic diseases or childhood trauma? And once we look at the hidden imbalances in the brain that are causing maybe your stress, maybe your exhaustion, your mental health challenge. And I've even found unrecognized concussions. Okay. I had a lady, she had no idea that
Mm,
she had an accident, like she had fallen. Or,
okay.
and I see this all the time where parents, especially dads, they'll hit the kid on the head, you know, and it
Yeah.
drives me crazy because I'm like, don't do that. That can actually cause a concussion.
Don't shake the baby. I remember when my boys were born. We had to before we could take them home, we had to watch a special movie in a little room in the hospital. It was all about, don't shake the baby. Don't even if you're upset, don't shake the baby because obviously that rocking. And we don't know. A lot of us don't know. And especially if you were born years ago before they were those wonderful
Yes.
info movies, who knows. I want to say that a lot of people are writing in and they want to thank you for your story and your beautiful heart sharing. Sherry Shari said, Deeple, your story brings hope and it also makes me feel not alone in these experiences which come with a lot of judgments and annoyance by for others.
Yeah.
So we always appreciate that so much, Deeple. For people wondering, oh, wow, this sounds amazing. Deeple is just such a heart caring, beautiful individual with all these clairs open. You have had some stories that I have to be careful sharing because they're so amazing. Can you share a few things? We're going to try not to use medical terms. This is not medical advice, treatment, or
Right.
guidance. This is energy work in the quantum. There are things that shift, but you've had things like IBS, you've had the things shift, you've had people's levels of different things in the body shift, like hormones getting back into balance. You've had all sorts of just kind of like traumas release or be rebalanced in the brain. What are some of your favorite stories?
Yeah. So I remember working with a client, Sharon, and she was struggling with extreme exhaustion, some stuff
Ah,
going on with her feet that doctors couldn't figure out, high blood pressure, so much stress at work, and sleepless nights. And I heard
mm,
somebody say they can't sleep.
yeah.
So she felt completely out of control.
Mm,
And she's like, Deeple, I'm a mess. She mainly came to me because she just wanted to feel more energetic. Like she's like, I just need more energy so I could get through my day. And I helped her realize in that moment what she was feeling was karmically, because I work very deeply with karma, and karmically attached to all the people and experiences in her life and lifetimes. And it
mm,
was keeping her ungrounded and affecting directly specific centers in the brain. where the cognition was affected, where the consciousness was affected. She had brain fog. She couldn't think straight. Like memory was an issue. She couldn't remember what happened 10 minutes ago. And we did one session and she felt more energy in her body, which she hadn't felt in such a long time. And she decided she wanted to work together for 6 months. And during that time, I literally like outlined step by step what we were going to do in each healing session and what I wanted her to do even after, between healing sessions. And and I taught her a pranic breathing technique to bring more oxygen into her brain. And during our time together, like her anxiety got better, her mind and body got stronger, and she even felt more peaceful for the first time in her life.
Wow.
And Sharon realized that she had more things going on than what she had come to me with. And by the end of the 6 months, she was like a brand new person, Darius. I mean, she had
Mm.
learned to be present, to protect her energy, and to be in control of how she feels every day. And what I discovered from my experience with doctors is that if you want to understand what's really happening in your brain, right? Like, I know we talk, people come to me because they need help because they didn't get answers anywhere else, right?
Right, right,
But with my experience, you know, doctors will never tell you to get an MRI, right?
right.
They're never going to say, oh, you're here, let's get you an MRI, unless something's life threatening. And even then, how many times has a doctor actually sat with you to explore how your brain is really functioning energetically, emotionally, and spiritually? Right. And that's what I help people with, is to really get down into all of these different levels, physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, because they all make you a whole person. You can't just take the physical and say, okay, you're done. Right. I mean, I'll tell you, I know a lot of women are going through menopause, and I'm going to raise my hand too. And I want you guys to raise your hand if you're going through menopause, you know, put it in the chat, because it is not a fun experience, but I feel like I myself have some of these experiences, so I understand my clients.
Mm.
And that's what I've noticed. I've asked my body, I've asked my guides, why am I going through this? And it's because they're like, we want you to understand what your clients are going through. I'm like, okay,
Right.
well, great. How long is it gonna last? But it's the brain, right? Because your temperature is going up and down,
Yes.
you're having brain fog, your everything feels like it's falling apart. Your body's dry, your skin's dry, everything is just not feeling good in your body. Well, what I
Mm.
realized, the more people, the more women that are going through menopause, what I'm finding is that there's 3 areas in the brain and about
Oh,
60,000 layers that are affected.
oh,
And
okay.
so the more intense the symptoms are, the
Yes.
deeper the layers. Okay. And many of you, I don't know if you guys have heard of this gentleman by the name of Dr. Daniel Amen.
Hmm.
Have you heard of him?
I have. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he revolutionized this idea by scanning thousands of brain to understand common struggles like stress, anxiety, depression, addiction, PTSD. But when you're in menopause, all this comes up, and it
Oh,
comes up so much stronger, you know?
wow.
And what I discovered through quantum energetic brain mapping, that
Okay.
it takes a step further, and
Okay.
tuning into these different like energetic layers, the 70,000, the 16 dimensions, and the
Oh,
5 main organs of the brain.
okay.
Okay, so there are 5 main organs that I like to work with because they're the ones that have everything to do with what's happening in your body. They are what make your body function the way it does. And those are the areas, these 5 areas are what keep you from, like, if you're getting mood swings, anxiety, chronic stress, trouble sleeping, staying calm, that mind chattering, you can't make decisions. all of that stuff, you're disconnected from your purpose, your intuition, brain fog, forgetfulness, like all these things that I see are impacted by the 5 areas of the brain. Like that's where they sit.
Wow. Wow. I was actually just going to ask you about these 5 areas and this idea of the brain as a motherboard, if you will, if you know anything about computers, like you have all these like circuits and different, you know, resistors and things like, well, not resistors but circuits, right, on the motherboard, and this is the place where all of it is housed, but it's the motherboard for your physical and emotional programming. And in looking at that, then we can see where the imbalances are, and you can see that and shift that. Tell me about the mapping. What does quantum brain mapping actually mean, Deeple? What's involved in that?
Yeah, so basically, we are taking the brain and I am following the energy of
Oh,
where and how the brain is throwing signals, how the neurons are working through the 2 brain hemispheres, right? Through the prefrontal cortex, which is the front of the brain, and that hosts your consciousness. And we all, maybe you've heard or you haven't heard, but studies suggest that we only use 1 to 3% of our conscious brain. Well, what is happening with the rest of it? Right. And nowadays we have AI, we have cell
yes.
phones, we have self-driving cars. I mean, God only knows what else is going to come up, but these things are impacting our mind. And that's why more and more people are losing focus, memory, brain fog, concentration. Like all these things are coming up, Darius, and more
Yeah.
diseases where people are feeling debilitated.
Oh gosh. Wow.
Okay. I mean, that is the exact word that one of my clients used yesterday, that I feel debilitated. And so, how I see the brain mapping working is moving through and seeing where energy is shifting and how it's moving. And so when I work with my clients, I'll ask them, how do you feel? Where's the energy
Yeah,
moving?
where
Let
is it?
me know, because this is
Wow.
a two-way conversation. This can't happen without you being part of the healing process, you know?
Wow. I gotta say, I'm super excited about this, and we are gonna take some callers in a little bit, maybe help kind of shift things or at least get a process started for folks. So raise your hand. And I gotta say the comments have been just blowing up. Sherry said, I call menopause hormonal insanity. That's her description.
I love it.
Another person wrote in and said, yes, I have all of these things going on, Julian. iPhone user says, I have brain fog, depression. I'm just tired all the time.
Yeah.
All sorts of things here going on with folks.
Well,
I want
I'm
to ask,
curious to know, like, how many people are dealing with brain fog and memory issues aside from menopause, but like, how
yeah,
many people are dealing with that?
just
Because,
type in yes or type in, well, just type
yeah,
in
type
yes
in
in the
yes.
chat.
Type
We'd
in
like
yes.
to know.
Text you.
One of the things, yeah, I want to get into things like phantom pain as well, because I
Yes.
think that's another area. Like, if you're feeling some pain in your body and you've been to all the experts and they're like, we don't know what's going on, but something is causing a pain no one can figure out. That is another area I want to get into, and getting a lot of yeses here. Yeah, we Sherry
Okay.
says yes, Julian says yes, Deb says yes, Sherry says yes. Judith Gay says yes. Sadie says yes. Carmel says yes. Do any of you have phantom pain? Why don't you just type in P? No, wait. Oh yeah, phantom pain would be FP. Type in FP there. Let me know if you just kind of have a pain that floats around. You don't know what's causing it. That also seems very tied to the brain. I want to
Yeah,
ask
we're
you.
going to talk about that definitely. But I just want to
Yeah,
address something, Darius, before we
yeah.
jump to that, because the reason I asked about brain fog and memory issues is that has actually increased by 47%, according to Harvard researchers. And it's what's even more intriguing is that the American Psychological Association
Okay.
reports that 1 in 4 adults now say they struggle to function most days, which means that millions of people are dealing with
Hmm.
improper brain function, and doctors don't have answers. And it's not just adults and children, but we need to get to the bottom of it, before it gets worse. And I feel like a lot of people here in this community are empathic and highly sensitive
Okay.
and healers. And
Yes.
you're plugged into like a 3D matrix without even realizing it, and and it's not allowing you to accelerate, not only spiritually but physically. And these
Yes.
healings tend to slow down for you because you're stuck in that. And
Yes.
so when we work with the brain mapping, we have to clear all of this out and bring you into the 5D that you want to be in, and allow all 16 dimensions of your brain to flow with prana, with life force energy, and integrate that within your brain blueprint, because that blueprint is like that higher self blueprint. Right?
Yes.
It is so divine. It is nurturing, loving. It knows exactly how to function. And so, yeah, I thought that was very, very, important to find out how many of you are actually dealing with such an issue.
I think that's amazing. And I want to ask that if you are an intuitive, I think most of you are, I would say all of you, but you are finding that there's thoughts, there's feelings, there's energies, there's emotions, there's things coming in
Yeah.
that could even be, influences that you don't want, kind of negative energies, thought forms, entities, and you're getting all of this stuff in your quantum receiver that isn't you. Then you go around thinking it's you. I mean, Deepal, I know you see that at times. Is that a very common thing these days that we're just plugged into stuff and it could even be nefarious sort of I don't know how to say it, things that want to make our life harder,
Of
entities and
course, of
okay.
course. Just like those self-driving cars and AI, they want to make my life harder. But, here's the thing. I've worked with both negative thought forms and
Oh,
entities that
okay.
deeply impact the brain and overall health. Okay, so what I found is that these energetic distortions are far more common than people realize. Now, how many of you have thoughts like, I'm not good enough, or I'll never heal? Raise your hand, right? Or put it in the chat.
Yeah, drop it in the
Just put
chat.
yes. Just put yes. See, these are just fleeting thoughts.
Sherry says yes. Christine says yes. Julian Brain says yes. Sherry says yes. Marguerite says yes. iPhone user 3 says
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
there's a lot of people. So there's a lot of you. And see, these are just fleeting thoughts. Negative thought forms are actually highly energetically charged
Mm.
thoughts that loop. They are like on a loop that take root in one of the five main brain regions that I work with, and they can deeply impact how you think, how you feel, how you respond to life, and your healing. For example, let's take this, okay? How many of you have gone through a painful breakup in your lifetime? I'm sure we all have. Put yes in the chat if you have.
I have put that
Yeah,
in.
we all
Yes.
have. And let's do a simple
Comments flooding in here. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do a simple exercise, whether you are in a relationship or not at this time. Okay, I want you to close your eyes and just take a nice deep breath in and out. Take another nice deep breath in and out. And ask yourself, do I believe I'm not lovable? And notice what answer you get at this